Hey everyone, and welcome back to MindSketch. If you're new here, this is where we dive deep into the fascinating world of psychology to help you understand your mind and improve your life. Today, we're exploring a topic that affects literally every single one of us: why you care so much about what others think of you. Before we begin, if you enjoy content like this that combines cutting-edge psychology research with practical insights you can use in your daily life, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. And if this video resonates with you, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more people who could benefit from these insights. Now, let's dive into today's topic. Picture this: you're about to post a photo on social media, and your finger hovers over the share button. In that split second, a cascade of thoughts floods your mind. What will people think? Do I look okay? Is this caption too much? You delete the post, write it again, edit the caption 3 times, and finally decide not to post at all. This moment of paralysis isn't unique to you, it's a universal human experience that reveals something profound about our psychology. We live our lives as if we're constantly on stage, performing for an audience that may not even be watching. But why do we care so deeply about what others think, and more importantly, how is this invisible audience shaping the very fabric of who we are? The answer lies in a fascinating psychological phenomenon that researchers call the spotlight effect, the tendency to overestimate how much others notice and evaluate our appearance, behavior, and mistakes. Named by psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky, this effect suggests that we walk through life believing we're illuminated by a bright spotlight, when in reality, most people are too busy managing their own spotlights to pay close attention to ours. Consider Sarah, a marketing professional who spilled coffee on her white shirt just before an important presentation. She spent the entire meeting convinced that everyone was staring at the stain, judging her professionalism. In reality, a post-meeting survey revealed that only 2 out of 15 attendees even noticed the spill, and none of them thought less of her for it. Sarah's spotlight effect had transformed a minor mishap into a major source of anxiety. To understand why you care about others' opinions, we need to travel back through evolutionary time. Our ancestors lived in small tribes where social rejection wasn't just embarrassing, it was potentially fatal. Being cast out from the group meant facing predators, harsh weather, and starvation alone. Those who were sensitive to social cues and group dynamics were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. This evolutionary heritage has gifted us with what psychologists call sociometer theory. Developed by Mark Leary, this theory suggests that our self-esteem functions like a fuel gauge, constantly monitoring our social acceptance levels. When we sense potential rejection or judgment, our internal alarm system activates, flooding us with anxiety and motivating us to restore our social standing. Dr. Matthew Lieberman's groundbreaking research using brain imaging technology revealed that social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. When participants in his studies were excluded from a virtual ball-tossing game, their brains lit up in the anterior cingulate cortex and right ventral prefrontal cortex, the same regions that activate when we touch a hot stove or stub our toe. Literally, rejection hurts. This explains why a dismissive text from a friend can ruin your entire day, or why public speaking feels like a life or death situation. Your brain can't distinguish between being laughed at during a presentation and being abandoned by your prehistoric tribe. In both cases, it sounds the same evolutionary alarm: danger. Social threat detected. But our concern with others' opinions goes beyond simple survival instincts. Enter social comparison theory, pioneered by social psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. Festinger discovered that humans have an innate drive to evaluate themselves, and in the absence of objective standards, we turn to those around us as measuring sticks. Think of it like this: if I told you that you ran a mile in 8 minutes, you wouldn't know if that's good or bad until I told you that your friend ran it in 6 minutes. Suddenly, your accomplishment feels diminished. This is social comparison in action, and it's happening constantly, often below our conscious awareness. Social media has weaponized this natural tendency, creating what researchers call compare and despair syndrome. Instagram feeds become highlight reels that make everyone else's life appear more exciting, successful, and fulfilling than our own. We forget that we're comparing our behind-the-scenes reality with others' carefully curated performances. Consider the story of Alex, a recent college graduate scrolling through LinkedIn. Every post seems to announce a promotion, a new job, or a professional achievement. Meanwhile, Alex is still sending out resumes and getting rejection emails. The constant comparison creates a narrative: everyone else is succeeding while I'm failing. But this narrative is based on incomplete information. Alex doesn't see the rejections, the struggles, or the mundane moments that fill everyone else's professional journey. Our concern with others' opinions is further amplified by predictable errors in thinking that psychologists call cognitive distortions. These mental shortcuts, while sometimes helpful, often lead us astray when it comes to social situations. The first is mind reading, the assumption that we know what others are thinking about us. When your colleague seems quiet during a meeting, your mind might jump to, "They think my idea was stupid." In reality, they might be thinking about their lunch, their weekend plans, or be dealing with a personal issue that has nothing to do with you. Then there's catastrophizing, imagining the worst possible outcomes from social situations. You make a small mistake during a presentation, and your mind fast forwards to being fired, becoming homeless, and dying alone. While dramatic, this kind of thinking is remarkably common and shows how our ancient survival instincts can hijack our modern rational mind. Personalization is another culprit, the tendency to take responsibility for things outside our control. If a group conversation dies down when you join, you might think, "I killed the vibe," when the reality could be that people were naturally reaching the end of their discussion. Dr. Aaron Beck, the father of cognitive behavioral therapy, identified these distortions as key contributors to anxiety and depression. When we recognize these patterns in our thinking, we can begin to question them rather than accepting them as truth. Here's where the psychology becomes particularly interesting. The more we try to manage others' impressions of us, the less authentic we become. And counterintuitively, people are generally drawn to authenticity over perfection. Research by Dr. Brené Brown has shown that vulnerability and authenticity create deeper connections than carefully constructed facades. Her studies reveal that people who are willing to show their imperfections and struggles are perceived as more likable, trustworthy, and relatable than those who appear to have it all together. This creates what we might call the authenticity paradox. We hide our true selves because we fear judgment, but in doing so, we prevent others from connecting with the real us. We become so focused on being who we think others want us to be that we lose touch with who we actually are. Maya Angelou captured this beautifully when she said, "If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." The energy we spend monitoring and managing others' perceptions is energy that could be channeled into creative expression, meaningful relationships, and personal growth. Consider the liberation that comes when you stop performing and start being. It's the difference between a scripted performance and an improvised conversation. One feels stiff and rehearsed, while the other flows with natural energy and spontaneity. Recent neuroscience research offers hope for those trapped in the cycle of excessive concern about others' opinions. Studies using mindfulness meditation have shown that regular practice can literally rewire the brain, reducing activity in the default mode network, the brain regions responsible for self-referential thinking and social comparison. Dr. Judson Brewer's research at Yale demonstrated that experienced meditators show decreased activity in the medial prefrontal cortex when engaging in self-referential thinking. This suggests that we can train our brains to be less consumed with how we appear to others and more present in the actual moment. The practice of self-compassion, developed by Dr. Kristin Neff, offers another neurological pathway to freedom. When we treat ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a good friend, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response that counteracts our fight or flight reactions to social threats. Brain imaging studies show that self-compassion practices increase activity in the left temporal pole and insula, regions associated with emotional regulation and empathy. Essentially, we can learn to be our own supportive friend rather than our harshest critic. Understanding the psychology is powerful, but transformation requires practice. Here are evidence-based strategies to reduce your concern with others' opinions. The spotlight reduction exercise. When you feel like everyone is watching and judging you, pause and ask, in a week, will anyone remember this moment? The answer is almost always no. Our mistakes and awkward moments loom large in our own minds but barely register in others' memories. The audience reality check. Before a social situation, remind yourself that most people are primarily focused on themselves. They're thinking about their own appearance, their own performance, their own concerns. You're simply not the center of their attention in the way your anxiety suggests. The values compass: instead of asking what will people think? Ask, is this aligned with my values? When your actions flow from your core principles rather than from fear of judgment, you'll find more peace with whatever response you receive. The approval addiction detox: practice saying no to requests that don't align with your priorities, sharing opinions that might be unpopular, and allowing others to see your imperfections. Start small: wear mismatched socks, leave a typo in a casual email, or admit when you don't know something. The compassionate observer: develop the ability to observe your thoughts about others' opinions without being consumed by them. Notice when your mind starts the what if they think spiral, and gently redirect your attention to the present moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow completely free from the exhausting burden of managing others' perceptions. Picture the energy you'd have for creativity, the risks you'd take, the authentic connections you'd form. This isn't a fantasy, it's a realistic outcome of understanding and working with your psychology rather than against it. When you stop caring so much about what others think, you don't become selfish or inconsiderate. Instead, you become more genuinely considerate because your kindness flows from choice rather than fear. You listen more deeply because you're not planning your next impressive comment. You take more creative risks because failure becomes information rather than identity. The people who matter most in your life, the ones worth keeping around, will appreciate the real you more than any carefully constructed version. And those who judge you harshly for being authentic? Their opinions reveal more about their own insecurities than about your worth. As you move through your day, notice the moments when you feel that familiar tug of social anxiety, that whisper asking what will they think? In those moments, remember that you're experiencing millions of years of evolutionary programming designed to keep you safe in a world that no longer exists. You have the power to honor that ancient wisdom while not being enslaved by it. You can acknowledge the fear without letting it drive your decisions. You can care about others' feelings without sacrificing your authenticity on the altar of their approval. The spotlight you think is shining on you? Most of the time, it's not even turned on. And when it is, it's far dimmer than you imagine. The audience you're performing for is largely a creation of your own mind, populated by critics who are too busy managing their own internal dramas to scrutinize yours. Your liberation begins with this recognition: you are not the center of everyone else's universe, and that's not a limitation, it's your freedom. What would you do today if you truly believed that most people aren't watching, aren't judging, and aren't keeping score? What risks would you take? What authentic version of yourself would you let shine? The stage is yours, but the spotlight has always been in your control. Take a moment to reflect. What's one small way you could practice caring less about others' opinions this week? Sometimes the most profound changes begin with the smallest steps.